Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. This podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach, and it's all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host. And I have a special guest with me. In just a moment, I will be introducing her. She is so interesting. But I would love for you to do me a solid before I introduce her to leave a comment for this episode as things are going on, as you hear her story. But also remember to like, subscribe, and share because the only way that these people's stories get out to a larger audience is by this audience growing as well. And that is where you come in. Help me grow the audience. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So this is beautiful lady. I'm going to bring her out in just a moment, Darcy Volden, and we just we met in a mutual group that we were in, the Do the Thing with Stacy Lauren, and I know those that have listened to me before have will recognize the name because I talk about her quite a bit. But Darcy and I met in there, and her story was just intriguing, so I just had to have her on here. So let me bring her on stage. There she is.
Hey,
Yay!
hello. Thanks for having me, Vicky. Yeah, I'm interesting even by my own standards. So
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Some of us lead boring lives, and that is definitely not you. Well, just go ahead and tell just a little tiny bit of who you are and what you do, and then we'll kind of dive into some different things about your life.
All right. So my name is Darcy Volden. Didn't get that figured out yet, but anyway, I do have just a very fascinating and interesting life by trade now. I'm a manifesting mastery and reality creation teacher and coach. I'm also a master channel of sound frequency and light language, and I'll leave that interesting aspect for a little later. But what's unique about my story is that I once, not very long ago, about 7 years ago, I weighed almost 300 pounds. I was broker than broke. I was literally cashing in my change jar at the Coinstar at Walmart. And I was having really difficulty in my relationships, and especially difficult with my teenage son at the time. But in any case, I managed to lose 130 pounds. I became a bona fide traveling showgirl and a model in my late 40s. I 5 years ago, I ditched everything I owned and I manifested an RV, and I hit the road indefinitely to go what I call going on a living spree, and the quintessential go find yourself. And it's 5 years later, and I'm still on the road. I still live, work, and travel full time, doing, like I said, going on a living spree. GOALS, goals. All my goals are checking off all the things that I want to do while I'm here. And just again, the short part of that story is that I just decided one day, I made just a single choice. And one day I looked around at my reality and was like, this is not who I am. I am not some fat, middle aged woman sitting on a couch in a suburb apartment, scraping to change, to buy gas money and wishing and dreaming of an incredible life of, mountain climbing and uh, canyons and swimming and wearing a bathing suit. It's not who I am. And so in that instant, I choose to change. Like I had a probable, almost certain future if I didn't choose to change. Or I could create the life that I love, knowing that I created all this around me. Now I can create newly, and it has become my purpose now on this planet to help everybody within earshot of me check out of here like, yes, that was a life, and I got to be me, and
Yes,
that's what I'm
yes.
up to.
Yeah, I just talked about this very kind of thing just the past couple of days in my Make Lasting Change group, because I talked about how you can be happy or you can not be happy. You get to choose regardless of what's going on around you and everything. Because I was telling them about someone that I knew quite a few years ago, and the most miserable person, and used to get aggravated at me for being too happy. And finally, I said, I don't understand why you want to be miserable. And he said, well, I don't choose this. And I stopped and I said, yes, you do. Well, that caused a huge argument,
Yeah,
because I couldn't be telling him that you can choose, because he said, I don't have a choice. These things have happened in my life. And it was just this big thing. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in that place. They're in the victim mode. They are always blaming someone else for their strife, whatever's going on in their life. But the interesting thing to me is when it comes the other way, where they have a success that they own,
yeah.
but they don't own the other part. And you can't own one without the other, you know?
Bingo.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, my adult son, for a lot of his life, has blamed me for everything that's ever gone wrong in his life. And I told him one day, I said, well, if you're going to blame me and make me responsible for all the things that go wrong, every time something good happens, you need to blame me for that too. Well, that
Yes.
just pissed him off.
I
It was
know.
like I have that art, I think, of pissing people off with those things. But
Oh
but
my
I'd like to take your story back further. Let's go back.
yeah.
Before you were 300 pounds, and let's look. Where were you, like when you were younger? Did you have a weight issue as a young child, and or did it come about later in life?
Um, you know, I can tell you the exact moment it all transpired with my issues with weight and body image, and because it was just never something that I ever thought about at all. But when I
Mhm.
was 16 years old, I got a brand new bathing suit, Hang Ten. That'll date me back there. Remember that
Yeah,
Hang
yeah.
Ten? It was this great bathing suit, and I was at my boyfriend at the time. We were at his grandmother's swimming pool, and I'm just out there just doing the thing, just
Having a good
walking
old
around.
time.
That's just a thing. And later that afternoon, she says to me, she goes, "Honey, she goes, you'd be so much prettier if you just lost a little weight." And I was just like, what? I'm like, what? I was mortified, because I thought that I looked completely normal. Like it just never crossed my mind of what my body looked like. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this is an adult, and this is her opinion of me, and like, I mean, she must know. I mean, this is how she their people are seeing me as fat. I'm like, oh my god. And then
Do you
she started.
remember what size you were at that point?
Oh my gosh, it was probably like an 8 or a 10, maybe,
Yeah, see,
if that.
isn't that interesting, and just to put something in there really quick, I started worrying about my weight when I was in the 3rd grade.
Wow, yeah,
You know?
yeah,
But I saw my father doing the same thing. He was always dieting or something. And
yeah,
so I had that learned behavior in that way, whereas you got just kind of thrust into it with
mm,
some woman that was,
yeah,
I'm not even going to say.
yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to think of the
yeah,
politically
I
correct
gotcha.
words to say.
Yeah, right. Of course, in her mind, she's just trying to help me out, I mean, like, it's just
No. Don't
Aunt
even
Linda's
give
like,
her that.
"Oh."
No. No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was interesting because how that transpired, it's like something happens to us, and then immediately we assign a meaning to it. We make a
Mhm.
meaning. I could have made 50 million meanings of it, but I made it, there's something wrong with me. I'm fat and ugly. And
Yeah.
um So then I'm hearing now from here on out, it's what comes through my filters is that people say something like, "Oh, see, fat and ugly, fat and ugly."
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so that added she would buy me diet books, let's help you out with this. She took me shopping once and she was gonna buy me a new outfit. She said, I'll tell you what, let's wait until you lose a little weight. And then she bought me a Mexican dress, which those are kind of like a Latin muumuu.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my own grandmother, actually, she did not help either with that. Same thing. She's told me, I'll give you $100 if you lose 10 pounds. I'm like,
Yep,
see, fat
yep.
and ugly.
Yes, I used to hear that kind of stuff too, and I remember one time, um, and my grandmother, bless her, I loved her dearly, but she did some of the stupidest shit because I had a cousin that was thinner than me, and we would be over at her house sometimes, and so she would get the bathroom scale out, and she'd get us and put us on there one at a time to see who was the fattest, and it was always me, you know? And interesting, and I really think maybe in her heart she thought that would motivate me, but she wasn't skinny either, you know. I never understood it. All I knew was that that meant something was wrong with me, and I was supposed to be more like my cousin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it sticks, and there you go. The rest of until you wake up and realize, wait a minute here, and we got to go back and do some rewiring.
yeah, yeah. And I will admit, I struggled with that all my life.
Yeah,
I would go on some kind of strict diet and I would lose the weight. Most of the time I didn't get to what the elusive they
yeah,
say that my weight is supposed to be, because I didn't feel good at that weight. To me, that felt too skinny. It didn't feel
yeah,
like me. Um, but I gained and lost weight so many times that I just really shut off my metabolism. It didn't take long when I started doing it in the third grade.
yeah, yeah,
So it's been an issue. And that's one of the reasons I became a hypnotist and a life coach and health coach and everything. And the interesting thing is, even though now I probably, if I go by some of the clothes that I have, some of them are a little bit tight. Maybe it would be good for me to just kind of reduce a little bit, like 10, 20 pounds, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But I can still be my worst critic sometimes,
Uh,
you know?
Same,
I,
same.
I
Yeah,
don't care what weight I get to, I can be my worst critic. And the thing that is amazing about women is I can see a woman that I would think, oh my God, I'd love to look like her, and
yeah,
find out she hates her body too. And society has just created this environment for women to never be happy with where they are.
yeah, yeah.
Crazy, right?
It is, and like you said, I mean, like kind of like the standards and what they say, like I got down to what they say, I should be. And I mean, people were telling me like, "Hey, you
Yeah.
look a little
You
too."
look like you've lost a little too much
Yeah,
weight. That's
people
what
say like,
happens to me if I get down
yeah.
to where they say I'm supposed to be.
Well, and then now, according to them, I'm obese. I mean,
Yeah.
so that and yeah, and then that sticks in your head, that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
it's just like uh, I'm just I'm just comfortable now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, I did when I hit menopause, I did notice, yeah, I put on about 20 pounds, just like boom, right off the bat. But, it's just like it is what it is, and I'm happy. I'm not fighting myself like I was. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not have that crazy making going in my mind anymore.
I know, because it's a torturous life
It
when you
is.
live it all the time depicting, "Oh, can I have that? Can I eat this? Do I need to work out now? Oh my God, I forgot to work out. I'm gonna gain weight." And it just perpetuates this horrible scenario in your head, and you're exhausted and nervous and anxious all the time.
Yeah, well, and then if we go into manifesting mastery, if we start looking at the quantum side of all this, we
Oh,
put
yeah.
so much of our focus and attention is directed at what we don't want, and
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
and then we're constant. I mean, when we're having to make decisions all the time, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Oh man, and then we beat ourselves up, and then we go into guilt, and then we go into shame, and then we're looking in the mirror, and then we're, beating ourselves. I mean, so it's like, you know, 99.9% of our energy and our focus is on what we don't want and what we're upset at, and it's just creating these frequencies that are,
Oh, yeah.
very lower frequencies, rather than focusing on what do we love,
Right.
what do we love. And that's a whole nother fascinating subject. But I mean, that was, even for me, a part of that weight loss, of getting my attention and my focus and my energy in the opposite direction of what do I love? What do I love? What do I love? I mean, every stand in the mirror and like, okay, every morning, three things. What are you proud of yourself for?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
forgive yourself for? Those are my three things I'm proud of myself for. Three things I forgive myself for. And well, there's just so much, Vicky. Geez, we could talk
I
for days
know, I
on this.
know. Well, this brings it up to me. I had a client that she came to me for weight loss. Well, come to find out, there was a whole lot of weight in her life, like
Yeah,
a spouse that was horrible, and different things that had happened to her in life that was causing all the weight. But she, in the beginning, could not even look in the mirror and find one solitary thing she liked about herself. Not
yeah,
one.
yeah,
So I ended up having to tell her, you have very pretty eyes, you've got a good smile, your hair looks great. And she, a little bit over time, when she started focusing on the things that she liked about herself or she loved about herself, over time, she was able to actually look at herself in the mirror and say, I love you.
yeah,
And that is, I wish every human the ability to do that, because I know there are men that fight this too. And I
yeah,
used to think it was only women, because women are held to a standard that men have never had to be held to.
yeah,
And this is probably going to be very unpolitically correct. But the thing that drives me crazy about men who that are cross dressers, oh my God. They can wear these gorgeous outfits and they can have a gut. They can have, an ass like crazy, and they are strutting their stuff because they're so damn proud to be there, right? And
yeah,
I think that's what we all need, is just to be so friggin' proud that we're a woman and that
yeah,
we have a woman's body, whether we got a roll here or a roll there. We just strut our stuff. I mean, if you
yeah,
just watch one of them, I mean, they don't care. It's like a privilege,
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
thinking, I want to be the woman who is so privileged that if I've got a role, I'm just, hey, proud.
Hey, there it is. Boom.
That's it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. And it's just it's such a difficult topic for so many, of us that deal with weight and body image issues, because we unfortunately, like I said, we're manifesting exactly more of what we don't want, and then it's like, how do we get out of that cycle? But we also, what's occurring too is, I mean, just what we're believing in the inside of things around shame and around guilt, and around which we do turns into self-punishing, that we
Hmm.
have these kind of putting silent instructions out to the universe of like, yeah, I don't deserve the wealth because, of this shame or this guilt, I don't deserve it. And
And bring me more people that will make me feel like what I don't want to feel like.
exactly. I mean, the thing for me was too, that was the biggest rock to swallow, if you will, is to really wake up and realize, like, I look around my life at the time, it's like these are all my choices based on what I believe that I am or what I'm good enough for. And like, I like, these are my choices. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I'm choosing this. Like, I'm choosing to be overweight. Like, I'm actually
Hmm.
choosing this. As much as I say I don't want it, I hate this, I'm still choosing it. I mean, but it's such a deep subject. I mean, there's so many deep
It
layers to
is.
it. It's not
And
like, okay,
people,
quit it, quit
I
doing
know,
that,
just stop it.
stop it.
It would be
I get it.
nice, but and the thing that is interesting too is that, our subconscious mind doesn't like change. So even if we're friggin' miserable as human beings, And everything in our life, our subconscious is really going to try really hard to keep us there because it knows it survived. It's not going to die, but it doesn't know about this new thing and venture, right?
Yeah.
And recently, I've just had a couple people that that I know that as they started making changes and everything, suddenly they started resisting it because it was like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good anymore.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are not aware that we are so inundated in our activities and the things that we do that it takes a lot of work to get out of that, and it takes help. You can do it, but it takes a lot longer, and you backslide and then you go, and then you backslide and you go. And that's why it's good to have people like you that coach on this. And then I work with people with this too, just with in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's like people they can either do it the long route and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't, or they can get help and they can actually get that going on the fast track and have somebody to guide them and make them aware. Because the thing is like the people that I know that changed their mind and they don't want to even do anything about it anymore, it's just too hard,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. you know Maybe if it had been possible for them, maybe if they had been told about that beforehand, maybe they would have made a different choice. I do not know.
Yeah.
But it's and I heard someone the other day that I was in a workshop, and the way he explained it was that we have glasses on that are the filter that we look out of the world. You know
Mhm.
how people used to always say, well, you're wearing rose colored glasses when everything was great, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we also wear glasses that are filtered where we live this horrible life and somebody else is to blame and all of those things. And until we can get to where we can take off those glasses and start seeing life for what it can be,
Yeah.
it never can be.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one thing I've always, preached, and I was a health coach for a while, like, after I lost the weight, I wanted to help women who were suffering,
That's how I
but that
started too.
which evolved into, like, I finally it's like, look, they say, it's what's going on here and here,
Yeah.
and that's I was like, I quit being a health coach for the program that I was with just because I like, look, it ain't about the food right now.
Yeah. It's
And
not what you're eating, it's what eating you.
it's what's eating you. And it's like until we can get right between here and here, but and to get our heart and our mind in complete alignment with each other, and we start pulling those weeds. I mean, it's we're going to continue this oscillating pattern, not just in our weight, but how it represents itself, or I should say, how it presents itself in literally every aspect of our life. I mean, it's just a complete overlay. It's like how you do one thing, like with your weight in the oscillating pattern,
Mhm.
it's your finances are in that same your relationships in that same oscillating pattern, because of what we're creating from a structure that I mean, you can wish and dream and do even all the manifesting techniques you want, but if you're still caught in that structure of certain programming about yourself or society, the way world is, the way you are, like you're caught. But it's like you said, once you can just take it,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
you can see like the
Who knew the
patterns.
world looked so
It's like, oh
beautiful?
my God, wow, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, so I have to ask you, so how long did it take you to get to the 300 pounds?
let's see. I was about 180 pounds. Well, I was 174 pounds the day that I graduated from high school.
How tall are you?
I am 5'7". I'm
Okay. So,
5'7".
so you're a tall girl.
Yeah. So, but like I said, when I was 16, like I said, I was probably about a size 8 or size 10. But I noticed that when I started birth control in high school, boom,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
immediately like popped on the weight. And then when I had my son, I went over the 200 mark, and I never lost that. And then I got well, I was in a extremely difficult well, I was in an abusive relationship, I will just say that. And so the stress of that was just unbearable. I gained even more weight. I was probably about 220 something by that time. And then after that, several years later, then I did end up getting remarried, and that was we were super in love with each other, man. I was like, whoa, I mean, and I packed on another. I immediately went over to 240. And
Hmm.
then my husband and I, we were married for quite a few years there, and that was in 2004, and then between 2004 and 2015, so probably about 10 years in there. It was just on that steady up climb, and I just, yeah, I my max
It
was,
creeps up,
it
doesn't it?
did. It
You
just it
know?
creeped, and
Yeah.
I never got on a scale, and I guess what's hard is, like, I mean, I knew I'd look in the mirror, and I was a very proportionate fat woman. So at
Hmm.
almost 300 pounds, I mean, I didn't have well, I would say, like, I didn't have a double chin or that. Like, I would have watched that, like, Biggest Loser show, and I'd see people that weigh significantly less than me that look like just like the just big belly and a triple chin and all that. I'm like, so to me, I in the mirror, I looked proportionate. Um, so it, but I knew, I wasn't happy with my belly, and I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you're fat, I'm like, okay, but again, proportionate. I lost 60 pounds, and I literally couldn't see it in the mirror. I could not see it in the mirror. So I thought I would humor myself and do a side by side. And then I was like, oh my gosh, then I really saw it. It was just like, dang, man, wow, wow. But I did go on to lose, at most I lost 130 pounds. Like, I've put since then, that was during COVID. I lost, where I got down to my lowest, but I've since then, I've put on 30 pounds, but and I've hit my menopause since then too as well. But I mean, I'm just hanging right here. I mean, it doesn't matter if I eat crazy, or if I can be so perfect, my body just kind of hangs out right about here. So we
Yeah.
make peace with it. I'm like, I'm good. I mean, I'm good now.
Yeah, perfect. Well, then I want to get on to, because this is one of the things that really fascinates me about your
Yeah.
story. And I'll tell you this before I ask you these questions. So
Yeah.
those people that are listening or watching, I still live in the hometown where I was born.
Yeah.
The hospital that I was born at is probably about 20 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
My family all lives close by. The furthest away, well, not really. My mother is an hour from me. I've got a sister and a niece that are like 20 minutes from
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I have some that have moved to other states, but most of them are still around here, cousins, aunts, uncles, and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, and my daughter is the one that loves to travel, and I love to go places, but I want to be home. And maybe it's because I've never thought I had that option. I started having kids young, and it's just never occurred to me that you could do what you've done. And so I really admire that. And there have been times I remember telling my daughter, because what she does, and she's an adult, is one day she told me, I can't remember, she was 19, 20, 21. I don't remember. But she looked at me, she said, I think I want to move to Denver. I said, really? I said, do you know anybody there? No. I said, have you ever been there? No. I said, when are you going? She said, next week. Okay. And
Yeah.
she's done that. She moved to Hawaii. She moved to Portland, to Denver twice. And so it's like and she says she does get a little nervous on the move, but
Yeah.
it's an exciting nervous thing. So who knows when she's going to walk up, and we're roommates right now. So who knows if she's going to come in one day and say, I think I've decided I'm going to move to so and so. And I did tell her, I said, you can visit anywhere you want to. You don't always have to move, right? But anyway, let's get to you. I just wanted to share, I am not in this free spirit thing, but I admire that. And sometimes I would like to be that, but I have so many things that keep me into this one space, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes. So share, for everybody. Now listen up. She's going to tell you this amazing story, and I want you to be taking notes because it is manifesting at its finest. And I love the story, and I love how you've made that something that you help other people with. So
Yeah.
it's all
Okay.
yours. Floor
All
is
right.
yours.
All right. So, as I said in the beginning, I lost all this weight and uh, manifested an RV. Like I said, I ditched everything I owned, completed my marriage, and we were married 15 years. And I say that we had a conscious completion of our marriage. Just so we still really love each other, even after that. That's another story for another time. But
Next podcast.
yeah, next podcast. And it's a phenomenal manifesting story. I mean, really, the whole thing, my whole life since the day that made that choice to lose the weight, like my life has been one incredible manifesting story after another, after another, after another, after another, and so that's why I love teaching this so much because I've kind of been able to dial this into literally a science, and because we got no time to waste here, time to get
That's
on it.
right.
We've
That's
got
right.
stuff to do. So let's get on it. So I when I say that I manifested that RV, again, that's a whole nother long story, but the short of it is, I'm like, I was still, honest to God, this is the truth. When I decided to leave home, I mean, when I manifested that RV, this is what I had a full tank of gas and $12 to my name. I knew I had enough gas to get to Shreveport, Louisiana, and $12. And I thought, you know what? As I call it, FTSO, you just gonna figure this shit out.
Hmm.
Like I knew I'm just gonna figure this shit out. Like I know I will somehow. Oh, here's the thing. Let me back up. That RV, I just knew like I have no money. How am I gonna manifest this RV? But I put in all my manifesting techniques. Again, super short to the point on that one is one day I get a notification from PayPal that there's $12,000 dropped into my PayPal account. I thought it was a scam, like I almost didn't even check it. But of course, curiosity got the best of me. And it was from my dad with a message that said, I wish I could have given this to you the day that you graduated from college. And that was in 1995. And so we're talking now 2019. And so he just all these years he got to a point in his life that he could help me now. And so I mean he didn't know about all this RV and stuff, but anyway, so I'd never even stepped in an RV before. I've been camping a few times, but by golly, I'm going to figure this out. I happen to have a truck, so
I was
figuring out
going
how
to
to get.
ask, was it a pull along or was it a
Yeah,
freestanding?
it was a
Yeah.
pull behind, and right, FTSO, University of YouTube, baby. I mean, there's videos on everything. I mean, like okay, well, how do I back up a trailer? I mean, how do I hitch a trailer? I don't know. All right, so but I'm like, I will figure this out. And there's people all around that will be willing to help. You just ask, I mean,
Hmm.
um, so anyway, I got that RV. And by the way, I've lived in Austin, Texas pretty much my entire life. I mean, I really thought that's where I just, die there. My family's there and all of that. But like I said, I want to have experienced all the things on my bucket list. By the way, before I forget, I'm the do the thing bucket list challenge champion.
I
Right
know. I know.
here. Props. Okay. Anyway, so I did just I hit the road, and um God, there's so much I can say about it. Like I said, there's so many things, but I thought, well, I'm gonna just it would just get to that first destination, and then I'll figure it out from there. And I also travel just intuitively. Like I didn't have anything planned out. I
I
wasn't
was
like
going
I'm
to
gonna go
ask,
here.
how did
Yeah.
you pick that first destination?
That first destination is the reason why I picked the first destination is there was a retreat that I wanted to
Okay.
go to in Oklahoma. And so I knew how to get myself to that retreat. And, okay, well, I got to manifest the money for that retreat. Not, I mean, so it all played itself out. That's how I knew. I just kind of had somewhere. I knew in my mind I wanted to get to that retreat in Oklahoma. And then I thought, okay, well, I've got a friend who lives in Durango, Colorado. So like, hey, could I come out there for a couple of weeks? So oh, absolutely. So then that became the next thing, and then from there it was like, okay, what from there. So uh, that little bit of time, like I said, was in my mind. It's like, okay, just just even if you can do it 3 months, and then 3 months. Okay, can I do it 3 more months, 6 months? Okay, like, okay, man, might as well just make it a year. And I mean, like, so now it's 5 years later, and I'm still um, all over the country. Right now, where I'm at is I'm at an amazing cabin that I manifested out near Branson, Missouri. That's just your quintessential log cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, doing what I want, when I want, how I want, on my own time. But
Mhm.
I created it, right? My life was not going to be that way for me had
Right.
it's not at
Yeah.
all. I would still be gaining weight. I'd still be sitting on the couch. I'd still be suffering. I mean, it just, yeah.
And you
So
might have been on that 600-pound life, right?
yes,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
real.
that
So the rate I
yeah.
was going there.
Luckily, you didn't go there. Well,
Yeah,
real quick, I just wanted to share there's a movie, and I cannot remember the movie, that it comes from, but one of the things is somebody asked her, "Now, why did you leave Kansas?" And she said, "Well, I looked around and I saw that there was not anybody there that I wanted their life,
yeah,
and it was time to go."
yeah,
And, I wish I could remember which one it is, but there's so many of them that I don't remember, but that's really important to think of because, like, I tell people all the time, find someone that you would like to mirror their life or the things that they do in their life that have done the things you want at least, and then find out, a little bit about them and how they did it, and then you can, get somewhere else
yeah,
because you don't want to be taking advice from people who've if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, you don't want to take advice from people that have never been an entrepreneur because they are definitely not going to be steering you on the right path.
yeah, yeah,
And so we have to be careful who we listen to, right?
yeah. Absolutely. Hey, we also have to be careful of how we're listening to ourselves, right? I
Oh
mean, because
yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like we're kind of buying into this dialogue. I mean, for every choice that our true self makes, that ego self, it's going to chime in with uh its own intervention every
Mhm.
single time. I'm either making choices from who I really am, or I'm letting that structure, if you will, dictate my choices. And
Yeah.
so it's like being able that I'm not listening to it's always going to be there. But,
Right.
it's like, who am I listening to? Am I listening to my true nature and purpose, or am I listening to that, "Oh, yeah, who do you think you are? You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. What is everybody gonna think about you?" It's like,
Yep. Well, one of my favorite books is by Michael Singer, and it's The
oh,
Untethered Soul.
yeah, such a great
And
book.
he talks about that so perfectly about our inner voice
Yeah,
and how we listen to it. And when you think about it, if we had, like he says in his book, if we had a friend come and sit down on our sofa and talk to us like we talk to ourselves,
yeah,
we'd have them hit the damn door. You can't talk to me like that.
yeah,
But we do it to ourselves all the time unless we start learning what we're doing and making a different decision, because it all comes down to once you become aware, then you've got a decision to make. Do you want to do better, or do you want to slide back into mediocrity or slide into discomfort that might be horrible, but you know
yeah,
what it is? What do you choose? Because there's no such thing as staying in the same place. You're either growing or you're sliding,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I have three mantras that I live by.
Okay.
Which there's probably more than three, right? Still, FTSO. I'm still to this day. Well, you just figure this shit out. You'll
Yeah,
figure it
that's
out.
right.
If
Yeah.
you want to do it. Yeah,
I always say I'm not perfect. I'm learning right along with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, so yeah. So there's actually more than three. I would say there are five. For yeah, FTSO. And then cliche, do it afraid. I mean, we're going to be afraid whether we don't do it or whether we do it. I mean, we're still gonna be afraid. And I'm going to tell you, like, when you do it afraid, I mean, you still get on the other side of it. Like, I mean, you just, okay. So, but my favorite one is just to do it messy. Like, just
Mhm.
do it messy. And Stacey Lauren do the thing. She's so amazing with that. I mean, I think she's
Yeah.
really
Just
been
start.
just do it, do it messy, because then the voice is all like, oh, you got to get it right, you're doing it wrong, or what are people going to think, it's like you're going to mess it up, you're gonna, it's just like, just do it messy. And I promise you, I mean, it's like when you're watching, you're listening to somebody and they're just raw, they're real, they got messy hair, they're stuttering, they're like, oh, God, you love them, you're just like, God, like you're showing up. I'd much rather watch somebody, the real deal, than somebody that's all got all the, fancy lighting and all primed up and all that. It's like, come on, let's keep it real. But the other one is that it doesn't need to make sense. You're going to get these ideas, right? Ideas, those are the desires of the heart, and what you love. What do you love? What do you love to do? And it may not make sense at all that what you really would love to do is actually, knit horse blankets. Like that you just love it because you love it, not because like in order to or anything, but it's that it doesn't need to make sense. And on top of that, it you don't need to make it make sense for other people. Because so a
Right.
lot of us, like, we
That's
stop
the one I
ourselves
love the most. Yeah.
from doing what we want to do. I'm telling you, it still didn't make sense to my mom the way that I I live like this, um, but we put such a lid on our life because we spend so much worrying about what other people, like trying to make it make sense for them, or they think we're crazy or like we're stupid, or that what, who are you, like. But golly, it's like all any of us really want, like I said, we just want to be us. We want to leave here and like, yeah, here I can say it. It's like it doesn't make sense, but you know what? Who I am? I'm an interdimensional time hopping space shaman. Boom, there it is. Does it make sense to anybody? I can't control what I can't control. People are going to judge me or say but you know what? I freaking love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
imagine.
Then
Yeah.
lastly, the other one too is just to know that all of us, we're still, even as coaches or teachers or guides or healers or channelers, I mean, we still are human, and we're still going to go through all the challenges. My God, the amount of challenges that I went through on the road, right? I mean, stories for days, but to just keep remembering that everything is going according to plan. Everything
Mhm.
is going according to plan, even those things that hit you sideways like that. I mean, there's not a one of us that can look back and can actually see how perfectly all the dots lined up. Like it makes no sense. It may seem so tragic or so horrible, but then it's like, God, wow, wow, wow. And that literally every day when I get up, it's that everything is going according to plan. My world is taking care of me. And it doesn't need to make sense today.
That's right. So, so you're still traveling in your RV, but so you've got it parked somewhere close by and you're just staying in this cabin for now?
Um, well, I actually just sold it.
Oh,
I had been towing that thing around all over the place from one end of this country to the other, and then uh, there was another year there where, and I have a travel companion, and uh, so we're best friends, and we were taking two RVs and two trucks all over the
oh
country.
gosh.
By the way, I mean, the first part of my journey, I always want to tell people I was absolutely solo. I want people to know that, like, I was completely by myself, and people always ask me, well, if he wasn't traveling with you, would you still do that? Well, yeah, that was the plan all along. My intention wasn't that I'm going to be having someone to travel with. I'm going on my own, and let's see what shows up. So anyway, so that's when I say we. That's why I say that I have a travel companion. Um, but so then we want to say, well, okay, what's it like to not have to tow an RV? Because I mean, it's a chore. You got to get all that hitched up in the water, and especially we were living off grid in the public lands. So then it was just Airbnb hopping. It's just our hotel hopping, and doing it that way. And so that's like, so right now this is actually an Airbnb, which yet another incredible manifesting story. But I've been coming here every winter for the past 3 years, and that the owners and I have become like family. They're just amazing people. So I did just recently sell my RV just because it was in such disrepair, and I didn't love it anymore. Not that I don't love RVing, but again, I cannot emphasize enough about love, and about not just what you love, but the things in your life. Like, if the things that you don't love it anymore, if every time you look at it, you're like, it's like, let it go and create space for the new stuff that you love. So I loved my RV, and it was amazing, but it had, over those years, a lot of damage and need a lot of repairs and a lot of that. And every time I looked at it, I was like, I wasn't in love anymore with it. So, then I can create what next that I love. And that's the other thing too. If you're just, you're listening to this, it's like I said, you got these desires from the heart, and they're not there by accident. And that's why there's such discord in our life, because you want to do those things so bad. And like I said, you just want to be who you really are. And when we're not, it's that tension that's there that we're fighting against, because it's like we're not honoring that, and we're not, does it happen overnight? No. I mean, it can. I'm going to say that too. I want to be real clear about that as well, because sometimes we think, oh, you got to go through this whole process. You got to dig all this stuff from your past up, and it's got to be this deep healing work. But honestly, sometimes it can just be like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I woke up one day, I'm like, I'm not going to eat like this anymore.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find for me that, not to say that I always eat perfectly, notice, and for those that are not seeing this, I'm putting that in quotes because there's no such thing as eating perfectly. Um, the thing that, the better I feel about me and about my life and what's going on and everything, the less I want to eat things just to eat, because I was always an emotional eater. And I think so. Anybody that is can get up to the sizes, like I wasn't 300 pounds, but I was close.
Yeah.
But when you get to that size, you didn't get to that size just because you were an overeater. You got that size because there was something wrong that you were feeding to
Yes.
not deal with it, or
Yes.
just to make you feel better. And so if people can gather that, you change this inner environment, the mindscape that you've got going on, take off those old glasses and put on some new glasses and get some help, then you can make things happen fast. You can have things happen slow. It's just whatever works better for your body, your mind, and you control that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say too, yes, you reminded me that too, of it's like that support. It was like, I cannot emphasize enough to not go it alone. Get you a coach, a community to work with, but like I said, especially with the mindset stuff. But that way, when you start to hit those slippery slopes, that you've got someone that's walked there before you, that can guide you, to help you navigate through the mires there.
Yeah.
I cannot emphasize that
Yeah,
enough. Having
that's
that
why I
support.
say, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, don't ask people that have never been an entrepreneur, because they're not going to help you be an entrepreneur. They're going to help you figure out why you shouldn't. And so when it comes to, mindset, you have to find somebody that is doing what you want to do. You can't just say, well, I think I'll pick them over there. They've got a good ad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
work that way.
Super important. And the other thing too, I mean, it's just like literally staying in that conversation about that. I mean, you're just constantly in the conversation, because when we're going it alone, it's you're not in the conversation. You'll be gung ho at first. Yeah, okay, all right, I got this time. This time I got
Yeah.
it.
This is
You
the
know,
last time because it's going to
yeah,
work.
this, and then the next thing happens, or
Yeah.
whatever, and then there we go again. Um, but literally, when you're in that conversation, that's why groups are so good. And now too, like, I'm so grateful for even I call my running buddy my travel companion, but as we're working on like a lot of this mindset stuff and breaking patterns, It's
Mhm.
constantly in that conversation because, or learning about it or reading about it, as long as you're, something, because otherwise you just kind of fall back asleep. It's too easy to fall back asleep. And I promise you, you do get on the other side of all this. There really, really is the other side of all this. You're not stuck. You're
Yeah,
not
and
stuck.
there's always something new to want to do, because to me, it's not all necessarily, physical things that you buy, I think society has kind of got everybody programmed that that is the level. If you get successful, that's what you're supposed to do, and then, I like, um oh god, I can't think of the name of the book, but anyway, in this book he talks about how we have he calls them rules. It's bullshit rules that society has given us. It's
Yeah.
Vishen Liakani, however you say his name, from that created Mind Valley. I can't remember the name of his book. I got it on the shelf over there. But anyway, he talks about that and how we adopt the rules that society has gotten for us
Yeah.
instead of deciding what our soul and what will make
Yeah.
us happy. And so I think when you're doing all this mindset work and everything, you start tuning into, what do I really want?
What do I
You
want?
know?
What do I love?
Yeah, what makes me happy? What brings me joy? What do I want? Not what does the commercials say I'm supposed to want, because that's a whole a whole different conversation there, So now I want to ask you, because
Yeah.
I know you kind of alluded a little bit to channeling and light language and that kind of stuff. And I do have a friend that she is, I guess she channels light language, and it's amazing because
Yeah.
when she does it, you can just kind of feel the energy, and you know, I have never done it. I really don't know anything about it. I know she can draw the different symbols
Oh,
and
yeah.
all
Yeah.
all that stuff, and it sounds kind of like gibberish,
It
and
it does. It does. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
did you get to that place where that's what came up for you?
Well, yet another that would take a whole other hour to
All
share all
right,
that, but
give us the cliff notes.
the Cliff Notes version of that is, like, I really can see now, like I talked earlier about how you can kinda see all the dots lining up. I
Mhm,
look back and I can see that I was literally led with breadcrumbs to
mhm,
for me, my ability to channel in the way that I do. So most of the times when people think of somebody that channels it, it might be like Abraham Hicks or Bashar or others that channel, and then you hear English messages coming through. But for me and others like your friend, it's an ability for me to channel sound frequency and what's light language. Bill, what the heck is this light language? And it's people ask us, oh, is it like is it speaking in tongue? And I would say yes and no. With that, that tends to get really twisted up in religion, like with the speaking of in
mhm,
tongue. Um, However, it is as if, because we're all frequency and energy. I mean, everything is energy. So if you could imagine if sound, if light could actually speak. That's why it kind of sounds like babble.
mhm.
However, how it appears to me, there's also uh, you could, if you want to take a real walk on the wild side here. And again, I know this is maybe too far out for some people, but other people listen and be like, "Oh my God, this is my jam." But it would be like um, your star origins or your galactic origins. I mean, there's also all of the creatures that are on our planet, even just down to the like little plankton in the ocean, the whales, and even the trees. Like everything is communicating. We just can't hear it within our audible human spectrum, but
Mhm,
everything is communicating. So when it's channeling even light language, what comes through that you might sound like this babble, if you will, or you'll often hear it does. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, that sounds so familiar to me. Like I feel like I'm at home," but it could, not could be. It is oftentimes too that it is like another thing, like it could be like some species of octopus that
Mhm.
it's their communication that's coming through that's actually becomes now audible to the our human
Mhm.
senses.
Have you ever seen the thing where they have that machine where they clip it to, like, the leaves and the trees and different
Yes.
things, and it plays the music?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's really is that real. So when you can see it with your eyes, right? Because it's like electricity was here all along. We just can't see it. And then
Right.
like exactly with the what you're talking about, it's happening right. We just can't see it, but then you put it in form into matter. Like so that energy that now it's being able to be expressed into matter, which looks like lines or sounds or all of that. But so one of the things like this really dropped in for me once I became a clear channel. I mean, we're all channels, by the way. It's not just me, but it's when we have so much bull crap going on in our minds and our bodies, and we just like we can't hear, you know, we can't tune in, and we can't tap in like energetically, like our bodies are so, you know, that we can't feel. Uh, the energy that's all around us, or you know, like even going into nature, it's not being able to pick that stuff up because like there's so much static inside of
Mhm.
us. And so for me, and that was part of my healing journey, was just getting that clear, and just kind of uh, removing. I have go through that process, really deprogramming, you know, all that stuff that I thought was how I'm supposed to act. I mean, I literally had to recreate my identity. Like, who am I really? You know, I mean, I'm not who I thought I was based on, you know, what I how I thought I was supposed to be as a kid and
Mhm.
a teenager and what my parents and family and TV and all that. And I'm acting a certain way, doing a certain thing because that's what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, whoa. So it was for me, like I said, once I got clear and I can just be in the silence. And I love to be in the silence now. Before it always the TV would always have to be on, or the radio would always have to be blasting, and now it's like you know. So being able to be a clear channel, which allow me then to be able to tap in. And then there's some other extremely fascinating stories of plant medicines like ayahuasca. You know, living in the jungle. You know, I spent a month in the jungle with the shamans, and so part of that is when that those abilities activated for me. So that's a short piece of it, but it is so cool and it is so fascinating. And I'm so grateful that we live in times that, you know, I'm not going to be strung up as a witch or, you know,
Burned at the
people,
stake.
yeah, right, exactly. I mean, at worst, people just going to think, well, she's lost her mind and she's off her rocker and she might need to be institutionalized. But, you know, for the most part,
But then for those people, there'll be somebody else, but the people that you're gonna attract are going to be the ones that want to hear about it.
yes, absolutely. And so, I'm like I was telling you that more recently it's just shown that my life really is taking this direction as a channeler. I call it you know, like people let me back up. I don't particularly like saying the word like sound healing because like
Mhm.
I don't feel like I am not a healer. We're all our own healers. I'm just
Right.
the channel and the conduit to help you remember, and it's like more of like an activation and awakening of all those aspects of yourself that are dormant and that you've kind of gotten energetically, molecularly, cellularly, like out of whack energetically because of our programming. So through light language and that kind of channeling it, like it will literally like kind of reset you back to your divine original template. We came in here perfectly, you know, like a seed
Right.
comes in here perfectly. We just got a little out of whack. So that's what this work does is it recalibrates and reattunes you and re it's all the re's so that you can, you know, get it really helps too to I mean just as we're going a lot of people are really going through your healing journey to help clear out all that debris to help you get to be in that clear state and to be in that
Mhm.
clear channel again. So that's where my life has really taken that direction now. When I had to ask, you know, I love manifesting mastery, I love teaching it, but it's like, what do you love? Like I love channeling and I love talking about it. I could do it all day long. It's an honor for me to share that. And so uh, I do what I call sacred sound ceremony once a month. people can find that at sacreddestiny.love. I haven't updated the site right this moment or the next date, but can find that there. And you, if
So
you,
is it a virtual event
it's a
or an
virtual
in-person
event.
event?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a group virtual event, and so your job, we just have you put your headphones in and kick back and just receive that. And I do it lasts about I do a full, I call it ceremony. It's very ceremonial,
Mhm.
and so it'll last between about a good 2.5 hours long that we do, because we do a lot of stuff with a water ceremony in there, and it's just it's incredible. And I like I said, it's such a neat thing for me to share and to introduce it to people. Again, some people come across it and be like, yeah, no, and other people are like, oh my God, this is just I'm so glad I found this. So yeah,
Yeah.
sacreddestiny.love is where you can find more about the light language and the channeling.
Okay. So, is there something else that you're doing there now too? Since you don't have your RV, you're getting away from the course. Is that what you said? And doing more with the light language? Are you
Yeah,
still
I'm
doing
doing,
the
yeah.
manifestation course too?
Well, yes, and
Mm.
so uh I still absolutely love teaching manifesting master in reality creation, because even through the channeling, right? It's not like you go through a channeling session with somebody like me or who does this and then boom, you're fixed. Life is good. Like I said, you still got to have that coach or that teacher, that guide, that
Mhm.
mentor. So that's what I still love doing. Like, I still love helping people, like learning all, like the manifesting practices of, like, I really love the quantum physics side of it, the spiritual side of it, like, how is it that we make things show up here? How do
Yeah.
we do that, right? So I still really love doing that. So like, where you've caught me is right in the middle of my shift, as I'm kind of trying to figure out, okay, exactly, okay, what is it that I'm spending like 99% of my time on versus, a little less, or how am I combining it together? What did that look like? But in the now moment, it's really becoming more and more about the channeling, because it's such an extraordinary ability that
Mhm.
I cannot not share it. Like, I feel like an obligation to have been gifted with this, to just keep it to myself. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, you said you haven't updated yet. So do you have one coming up pretty
Yeah.
soon?
Yeah, I have not, actually, I have not set the date yet. I
Okay.
was gonna do that tonight, actually, and figure out what date. We just had one on, this past Sunday, and I
Okay.
do them every month, but I'm actually considering doing one even in a couple of weeks,
Okay.
here. Uh,
Well, what I will say for
yeah.
everybody that's listening or watching is that when they see this, to look in the description,
Yeah.
because if the date is set, I will have that in there. So as soon as, even if I
Yeah.
have this published before you give me the date, I'll go back in and add it
Okay.
in. So anybody that's looking will know. And then if it's something like if you do it once a month and it's always on like the third Sunday of the month or whatever, we'll put that information in there
Yeah.
too, so that they, whether the date's right or not, they
Well,
can go
yeah.
and look any old time.
That's perfect, and honestly too, even if you can go there right now, which I recommend, go there and you can read all about this. It is very detailed. There's a mile-long list of testimonials on there, but more specifically, it'll answer any question that you have, like, "What is this? Like, how does this work? How's that?" So you can see, you can actually, even though it may have a previous date, you can still register, and that'll get you on my mailing list. And then that
Okay.
way, when I do announce a new date, it will automatically, you'll automatically get that. And of course, find me on Facebook, Darcy Volden. Send me a friend request, and then let me know you found me here, because it's getting harder to tell who's the real
I know.
deal.
I
So, but
know.
if you
Yeah.
find me on Facebook, that's the best way. Send me a private message, send me a friend request, and then I can keep you in my loop. And like I said, it is my purpose on this planet to help you leave here knowing that you got to be you, and you got to do all the stuff that you loved. I got you. I'll help get you there every step of the way.
All right, that sounds perfect. And we're at the end of our time. We may have gone a little over, but I don't remember exactly what time we got on here, so we're good, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and all the things that you've done and that you are doing, because it's definitely fascinating. And so I ask everybody to make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, and help Darcy's message get out even
Yes,
further. Definitely share with your friends if you think that they would be interested in light language, even if they're not, that you know of. Share it with them and just let them see. It might be something that energetically will start talking to them, right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So I will leave you. Well, do you have any final words before we sign off?
Well, like I said, I'm going to just rehash those couple of things just because we just want to anchor it in. Do it messy. It doesn't need to make sense. Everything is going according to plan. I'm going to throw it in there again. You can FTSO your way anywhere you want to go. And I'm no different than you. You know, I mean, I we're the same. If I'm cliche, you know, if I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this just ties in perfectly to my ending statement that I always end with. And that is, the best way to predict the future is create it. What are
Boom.
you creating?
Yeah.
Ah, perfect. So, with that said, blessings, everybody, and make sure like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next one.